aliens, brothers, and strong winds. We'll talk about our gospel and strong winds, but Carmen worked so hard and did such a good job with our Old Testament reading that we're going to have to talk about Joseph a little bit so that her reading is not in vain. And what a story. What a story it is. Jacob, the ancestor of Jesus, was, as the text tells us, leads off with, he was from an alien family, a family of immigrants. Jacob would have 12 sons who would become the patriarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel. You recall, today we hear the story of Jacob's family, a family of immigrants who are making their way in the land of Canaan. That's the promised land, you recall. The land flowing with milk and honey. Their ancestors had been with Moses in the wilderness 40 years, you remember, making their way to this promised land. Yet in this promised land, Joseph's brothers have grown weary. They have grown weary of his father Jacob's favoritism toward Joseph. You remember Jacob had given, and it's referenced here, Jacob has given Joseph his famous splendid coat of many colors. The brothers have had to listen to Joseph's dreams about how not only the wheat in the fields bow to him, they have to listen to his dreams about how they themselves are bowing to him in Joseph's dreams. They have simply had enough. Have you ever been there? Who does this younger brother think he is? They are fed up. Any family of siblings, and I see some, and I'm not going to look directly at y'all, but you know who you are. I have two brothers. We know a little something about these things. Any family of siblings, if they're being honest, has had thoughts of irritation. We'll leave it at that. Irritation, maybe very mild irritation of one form or another. It seems to me that one of the great challenges for us, and it's an invitation to us, is to think about this in our own lives. It seems to me that the closer the relationship, the more respectful of one another we might want and strive to be. Do you think about that? It is not uncommon in every generation to hear person after person, maybe you're one, I'm sure I've been one, this is just what we do, but in every generation we might bemoan apparent losses of civility in how we speak and act with one another in society. But it becomes easier to dismiss or disregard or even mistreat those we do not know if we are doing the same to those we know. And not only those we know, but those closest to us. Think about it. Have you ever been in this place where you're just perfectly nice to everybody else, and then you go home and you blast your whole family. It happens. It happens. Here in this story about Joseph and his brothers, we have the age-old conflict. It's the one that goes all the way back to the garden. Brother against brother. And we are still at the beginning. We are still in Genesis, and already again, we're out of the garden, but we're still dealing with brother against brother. It's the struggle that has been with us since the beginning. And because this type of struggle has been with us since the beginning, it means that we do not have to fall into disillusionment when the world does not go the way we think it ought to go. We do not have to fall into disillusionment when we ourselves face hurdles or obstacles of any sort, when some days it may seem in your own life as if you are taking 2 steps forward only to take 5 steps backward. Have you ever been there? 2 steps forward and then 5 backward. And that's whether in your daily life and work, regarding broader issues of justice and dignity, or maybe your own individual, personal struggles of health, regarding yourself or maybe a loved one, whatever it is you might be worrying about. We know that occasional setbacks are all part of the pilgrimage of life and journey of faith through which we move day by day. And sometimes, like Peter in our gospel, sometimes we find ourselves sinking a bit. We find ourselves sinking. If not in the plough mud, then sinking under the pressures of life. We know what it's like to sink in the plough mud. I do it most every time I take the kayak out. I have to jump in and hope that I don't sink before I can get in the boat. It's good exercise. Peter, so full of faith and boldness, he only begins to sink in the waves after noticing the strong wind. That's when he begins to sink. After he notices, he jumps out in the middle of the storm, and it's as if he says, "Oh my goodness, I'm in a storm." And that's when he calls out to Jesus to save him. He becomes frightened and begins to sink. We need to notice, don't we? We need to notice the strong winds around us. It's vital that we respect the wind and the waves and the tides. But we keep our eyes on the one who can still the storm, and even if the storm is not stilled, we keep our eyes on the one who is with us in the storm, the one who is always with us throughout all the storms of our lives. Now, in this story, it's the sons of Jacob, the sons of the immigrant, who sell their very own flesh and blood into slavery. They expel Joseph from the promised land, the land given to them as descendants of Abraham. You notice how it was Judah himself. It was Judah who devised the compromise among his brothers not to kill Joseph. Judah choosing the lesser of two evils. The other brothers wanted to kill him. And Judah says, no, 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 let's sell him into slavery. Let's be kind. Let's sell him into slavery to a caravan of merchants, to nomadic traders. Judah, the very ancestor of Jesus, serving as a slave trader. You heard it right here. Negotiating away his very own brother. Thanks be to God that God regularly chooses to, as the old proverb has it, God draws straight with crooked lines. God draws straight with crooked lines. Your crooked heart, our crooked heart. Yet God somehow uses us anyway. How quickly these brothers, how quickly they forgot their own origin story. And it's the origin story of most of us, not only as people of faith, but as Americans. For so many different reasons across generations, for hundreds of years now, in recent times or in earlier times, we arrived on these shores as aliens in a foreign land. We all arrived not on the same boat, but all of us somehow still struggling to make a way in the wilderness. Struggling to make a way in the wilderness. You know, when Charles, at the Restoration in England, when Charles II assumed the throne, and a number of the children of the regicides, people who had seen fit to kill Charles's father, Charles I, when those folks were still in England, and then all of a sudden Charles II and the Lords Proprietors, they approach these people and they say, you know what we're going to do with you? We are going to make you important, and you're going to be somebody, and we're going to give you a title, and we're going to send you to this new colony called Carolina, and we're going to give you 4,000 acres up the Ashley River. And so that's what we're going to do. And those people, they were smart enough to know not to protest. They said, thank you very much, I'm out of here. They didn't want to be hanged, drawn, and quartered like their parents. They left. What if that hadn't been available to them? They would have been, in all likelihood. In all likelihood, they would have lost their lives. The same goes for the Huguenots. We can go on and on. When the going gets rough, do we ever forget from whence we have come and the likely struggles that forced us at one point to leave lands and home and country, only to start over in a wild land, a jungle land, really, especially in the summertime, a rainforest that was being heavily marketed in the London newspapers, this land called Carolina. Do we forget the things that once brought so many of us here? And do you and I ever act like Joseph's brothers? Do we ever make decisions to sell or return our own into a slavery of sorts? Do we ever do this? Are we doing it today in any way? thus forbidding them the benefits that were so lavishly bestowed upon us. Think about it. Think about how we might do better. The good news in this is that we have the one who is with us in all the storms of life. And we'll see next Sunday how God uses the tragedy of Joseph being sold into slavery, how God uses it for God's glory. Think about what this story means for you and for me today. Amen.